Our minds are magnificent landscapes, capable of boundless creation and profound understanding. Yet, within this inner world, unseen forces can erode our strength, dim our spirit, and leave us feeling lost. Carl Jung, a titan of psychology, unveiled 7 insidious psychological environments, not physical locations, but intricate mental traps that silently diminish the mental fortitude of a vast majority of people. These are the spaces we unknowingly inhabit daily, wondering why vitality drains from us, why anxiety becomes a constant companion, or why a sense of purpose eludes us. We often blame ourselves, but Jung, with his profound insight, understood a deeper truth. He recognized that specific mental environments possess the power to literally rewire our brains, turning our own inner workings against us. Consider a patient Jung encountered in 1961, a man who, on the surface, appeared perfectly normal, yet was slowly, tragically, losing his grip on his own mind. Jung meticulously traced his unraveling to 7 distinct psychological spaces this man frequented in his daily existence. The moment Jung illuminated these mental prisons and guided him towards escape, his patient's transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Today, we embark on a journey to identify these mind-shattering environments, to understand the subtle cues that signal our entrapment, and to arm ourselves with Jung's revolutionary escape protocol, a blueprint to reclaim our sanity and unleash our true potential. For what Jung unveiled about these dangerous psychological landscapes will forever alter how you perceive every relationship, every room you enter, and every decision you make for the rest of your life. It's a call to wake up, to see clearly, and to choose freedom. Join us now as we journey into Jung's most revolutionary insights, exploring the invisible energy field that encircles true empaths. Understanding this rare aura is not just knowledge, it is the fundamental difference between remaining a wounded healer, a conduit for others' pain, and evolving into a sovereign one, a master of your own energetic domain. For here lies Jung's profound discovery, a truth that much of modern psychology still struggles to fully grasp. Your empathic aura isn't merely a gift you were born with, a fortunate twist of fate. No, it is a sophisticated psychological survival mechanism, a testament to your resilience, painstakingly crafted and then transformed into something sacred through what we call traumatic alchemy. As Jung himself wisely penned, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But for empaths, this journey of self-discovery begins with a crucial understanding: why your nervous system developed such extraordinary sensitivity. It was never random. It was a brilliant adaptation, a silent promise of survival. Consider this through Jung's incisive lens on psychological development. He observed that empaths often emerged from childhood environments where emotional survival hinged upon hypervigilance. Before you could decipher words, you were already decoding micro-expressions, sensing the subtle shifts in atmosphere, and reading the unspoken narratives of those around you. You developed an internal radar for emotional danger, a finely tuned instrument that anticipated the emotional weather, ensuring your safety in unpredictable landscapes. But here's the profound insight Jung grasped, one that many therapists still overlook. This survival mechanism didn't just help you navigate childhood trauma, it literally rewired your brain, sculpting it to operate at frequencies that most people can't even perceive, let alone access. Your mirror neurons became hyperactive, reflecting the inner worlds of others with uncanny precision. Your limbic system, the seat of emotion, became extraordinarily responsive. Your entire nervous system evolved into what we can only describe as an exquisitely sensitive emotional antenna, constantly receiving and transmitting energetic information. Modern neuroscience, decades later, now confirms what Jung intuited with such prescience. Dr. Elaine Aron's pioneering research on highly sensitive persons, HSPs, reveals that empaths process sensory information more deeply within specific brain regions associated with awareness, emotion, and empathy. But Jung understood something even deeper. This profound neurological difference isn't just internal. It actively creates an actual, palpable energetic field that others can consciously or unconsciously perceive. Yet, that's not the most extraordinary part of his findings. The truly astonishing aspect is how Jung discovered this empathic aura functions like what he called psychological radar. It doesn't merely receive energy passively, it actively transmutes it through complex, often unconscious, alchemical processes within your being. Jung meticulously observed that the moment empaths enter a space, they unconsciously initiate what we call energetic archaeology. They don't just see the surface, they dig beneath superficial presentations, uncovering the raw, emotional truths that others are diligently hiding, sometimes even from themselves. Your aura literally reads the shadow projections that people carry, the unexpressed narratives etched into their energetic fields. Here's a glimpse into how this intricate process actually unfolds, based on Jung's groundbreaking understanding of the collective unconscious. Stage 1. The energetic scan. Your empathic aura automatically attunes to what Jung referred to as feeling-toned complexes, the unconscious emotional patterns that are the true drivers of people's behavior. You sense their unprocessed grief, their simmering hidden rage, their suppressed fears, long before they have even acknowledged these emotions exist within themselves. It's like sensing the shifting tectonic plates beneath a seemingly calm surface. Part 2. Strategic Emotional Modeling, the Inner Architect. Jung observed that these empaths unconsciously construct incredibly detailed psychological models of every individual they encounter. Their auxiliary functions, extroverted thinking T for INTJs or extroverted feeling F for INFJs, diligently catalog emotional responses, behavioral triggers, and decision-making patterns. Stage 3. The alchemical process. Here is where Jung's understanding becomes truly revolutionary. Your empathic nervous system doesn't just absorb emotional energy, it actively processes it through what he termed the transcendent function. You unconsciously transform others' raw emotional material, their pain, their confusion, their unspoken burdens into wisdom, profound insight, and potent healing potential. This is precisely why people often feel an inexplicable sense of relief or well-being after simply being in your presence, even when you haven't said or done anything overtly specific. Your aura has literally processed their shadow material, holding it in a crucible of compassion, and subtly reflected back a more integrated, lighter version of their emotional truth. But Jung issued a crucial warning. This transformative process only truly serves you consciously. Jung realized this combination created what he called empathic omniscience, the ability to peer into the very psychological machinery of others while maintaining the detached clarity to consciously manipulate it. He wrote, "They become psychological gods in human relationships, able to create any emotional reality they choose." But here is where Jung's research takes an alarming turn. Your rare empathic aura, with its immense power, creates what he called archetypal attraction patterns. These patterns act like a magnetic force field, drawing both genuine healers and insidious emotional vampires into your orbit. Jung identified specific archetypes that are unconsciously, powerfully drawn to empathic auras. The wounded child archetype. These are individuals carrying deep, unhealed childhood trauma. They instinctively sense your profound capacity to witness, to hold, and to validate their pain without judgment. They are drawn to you because your aura unconsciously promises the unconditional acceptance and understanding they tragically never received in their formative years. The shadow projector. These are individuals who have disowned, suppressed, or outright rejected parts of themselves, their anger, their shame, their vulnerabilities. They unconsciously seek empaths to carry these rejected emotions for them, projecting them onto your open field. Your aura inadvertently becomes a repository for what they refuse to feel or acknowledge within themselves. The energy vampire. Jung chillingly referred to these as psychological parasites. These are people whose own empathic development was tragically stunted or never fully realized. Consequently, they've learned to survive by unconsciously feeding on others' emotional energy, seeking to fill their own internal void from your abundant wellspring. People unconsciously sense when someone can predict their behavior, and this ignites a primal fear response, a feeling of loss of control. Jung noted that subjects would report feeling exposed or naked around these empaths, even when the empaths were being kind and supportive. Jung documented numerous cases where INTJ and INFJ empaths would make innocent observations about people's emotional states, only to be met with accusations of being creepy, invasive, or too intense. What Jung realized was that these empaths were inadvertently proving they could see past people's psychological defenses, thereby triggering deep-seated, unconscious fear responses. Even more concerning, Jung found that these empaths often attracted individuals with personality disorders who sensed, albeit unconsciously, that here was someone who could truly see them, the authentic self. These are people who are ready to embrace their full, unvarnished humanity, yearning for genuine connection. They are naturally drawn to the profound permission your aura implicitly grants them, the permission to feel deeply, truthfully, and without shame, inspiring them to drop their own masks. Through his extensive research, Jung identified 4 distinct pathways these rare individuals tend to follow, each leading to vastly different outcomes for both themselves and those around them. This is the choice, the crucible, they must navigate. Type 1. The overwhelmed oracle. These empaths are tragically destroyed by their immense abilities. Jung observed they become psychically flooded, overwhelmed by a constant torrent of emotional data they simply cannot switch off. They perceive everyone's psychological patterns, but lack the crucial emotional boundaries to protect themselves from the deluge. Jung noted they often develop severe anxiety, depression, or complete social withdrawal because they can predict everyone's behavior but are powerless to stop caring about the outcomes. Jung deeply understood that the wounded healer archetype operates through what we call resonant frequency healing. Your aura doesn't heal others by simply giving away your precious energy. It heals by resonating at frequencies that activate their own innate healing potential. They simply do not require external validation because they are profoundly connected to their own immutable inner source of worth. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But once you bravely undertake this inner work, the fleeting opinions of strangers on the internet become utterly irrelevant. You are no longer performing for an audience because you are no longer seeking their approval." Jung warned that these empaths often don't even realize they're manipulating because their conscious intention is genuinely to help. However, their unconscious desire for control and validation subtly drives them to shape others' emotional realities, thereby maintaining their cherished role as the rescuer or wise counselor. They are the gardeners who prune too aggressively, shaping the plant to their ideal, rather than allowing its natural growth. Type 3. The shadow architect. This was Jung's most disturbing category. Empaths who consciously weaponize their abilities for personal gain. They ruthlessly employ their architectural empathy to manipulate outcomes, control relationships, and exploit others' psychological vulnerabilities for their own advantage. Jung documented how they could destroy relationships, undermine confidence, or create emotional dependency with surgical, chilling precision. These empaths represent the dark potential of this powerful combination. They become what Jung chillingly called emotional dictators, using their insights to construct psychological prisons around others, all while maintaining plausible deniability, their true motives hidden behind a veil of benevolent intent or calculated charm. They are the puppeteers, invisible strings attached to the deepest parts of their victims' souls. This creates what I call the conscious partnership, a vibrant, evolving relationship between two sovereign individuals, rather than two needy halves desperately trying to form a functional whole. And this kind of relationship simply cannot be exploited by industries that profit from relational dysfunction and insecurity. Jung noted these empaths have learned to employ their insights in service of others' authentic growth rather than their own psychological needs or ego. They become what Jung termed psychological guardians, protectors of others' emotional development rather than controllers of it. They are like master cartographers, drawing maps for others to navigate their own journeys, never forcing a path. Jung identified multiple inherent dangers in the INTJ and INFJ empath combination, compelling him to question whether this level of psychological ability should exist in humans. The God complex trap. Jung observed that possessing architectural empathy often leads to what he called psychological omnipotence fantasy. These empaths gradually begin to believe they know what is best for everyone, simply because they can see others' psychological patterns with such startling clarity. Jung documented cases where initially well-meaning empaths subtly became controlling, justifying their manipulation as helping people see their blind spots. The line between insight and interference blurs. The isolation paradox. The very abilities that could forge the deepest connections instead create profound isolation. Jung noted that these empaths often feel they can never truly have authentic relationships because others either fear their penetrating insight or become utterly dependent on it. They live in what Jung called the observer's prison, able to see everyone clearly but tragically unable to be truly seen themselves. It's a lonely view from the mountaintop, the responsibility burden. Jung documented that these empaths often feel a crushing responsibility for others' emotional states because they can so accurately predict negative outcomes. They live with what Jung called prophetic guilt, feeling responsible for disasters they foresaw but felt powerless to prevent without overtly manipulating the person's free choices. This burden can be immense, a silent weight on their souls. The authenticity crisis. Perhaps most dangerously, Jung found that these empaths often lose touch with their own authentic emotions. They become so skilled at reading and responding to others that they forget how to simply be themselves. They develop what Jung termed empathic dissociation, becoming disconnected from their own emotional truth while being hyperconnected to everyone else's. Their inner compass spins wildly, having lost its true north. The addiction to control. Jung's most concerning observation was that the sheer power to influence others' emotional realities can become profoundly addictive. Even empaths with the best intentions find themselves unconsciously manipulating situations to feel psychologically safe or valued. The ability to predict and influence outcomes makes uncertainty unbearable, a flaw in their otherwise powerful machinery. Jung wrote, "They risk becoming emotional tyrants, benevolent perhaps, but tyrants nonetheless, unable to let others exist in their own psychological chaos, because they can see the pattern so clearly, and the urge to fix is overwhelming." Start paying close attention to these subtle, internal messages, instead of constantly seeking external input. Stage 1. Shadow recognition. Jung insisted these empaths must first confront and acknowledge their inherent capacity for manipulation and control. This involves recognizing the unconscious pleasure they derive from being the one who sees, the subtle ego inflation that accompanies psychological superiority, and the hidden, often noble-seeming, desire to be needed and indispensable. Jung designed specific exercises, documenting moments when they felt superior due to their insights, identifying times they intervened not purely to help, but to feel useful, and recognizing when their help inadvertently fostered dependency rather than genuine growth. It's about looking into the mirror and seeing the full spectrum of self. Stage 2. Boundary architecture. Jung taught what he called conscious permeability, the profound ability to choose when to read others and when to simply be present, allowing for unanalyzed connection. This involves cultivating what Jung termed empathic discipline, the inner strength to resist using insights simply because they are available, like a master craftsman, choosing not to wield a powerful tool unnecessarily. A key practice Jung developed was psychological fasting, deliberately choosing periods where they would not analyze or read others, allowing relationships to exist in a state of blessed, unexamined unconsciousness. Jung noted this was initially deeply uncomfortable, but absolutely essential for cultivating authentic, balanced connections. Stage 3. Ethical framework development. Jung emphasized that these empaths required rigid, unshakable ethical guidelines for employing their abilities. He developed what he called the healer's code, specific principles governing when intervention was truly appropriate and when it constituted a psychological violation. The core principle was unwavering: never use insights about others without their explicit, conscious consent, unless they were in immediate, undeniable danger. This meant resisting the powerful urge to help people see their patterns, to fix their relationships, or to save them from consequences they genuinely needed to experience for their own growth. It's the ultimate act of respect for another's autonomy. Stage 4. Authentic self-recovery. Jung recognized that many of these empaths, in their focus on others, had profoundly lost touch with their own emotions and inner landscape. The final vital stage involved what Jung called empathic individuation, learning to feel and express their own authentic emotions without immediately analyzing them strategically. This creates what I call quiet authority, a kind of powerful presence that needs no announcement. People sense that you are operating from a different, deeper level of consciousness. You are not reactive, you are not needy, and crucially, you cannot be manipulated. If you have reached the point where you can truly read people but no longer need their approval, then you understand this profound truth. This is precisely what makes you truly dangerous to systems of control. You have become what Jung called a conscious individual in a world largely designed for unconscious masses. Jung's research into historical figures revealed clear patterns that determined whether INTJ and INFJ empaths became forces for profound healing or catastrophic destruction. These are our historical blueprints for integration. Success pattern. Carl Rogers. Jung identified Rogers, the visionary founder of person-centered therapy, as a successfully integrated INTJ empath. Rogers could read clients' patterns with remarkable accuracy, yet he developed what Jung called empathic restraint, the profound discipline to reflect rather than direct, to understand without controlling. Rogers' key insight, which Jung highlighted, was that true empathy meant empowering people to discover their own truth rather than imposing the empath's superior vision of what they needed. Jung also issued a powerful warning about something else, what he called the collective shadow. When large groups of people refuse to undertake their individual shadow work, they inevitably project their own unacknowledged darkness onto scapegoats, other races, opposing political parties, or rival nations. He wrote, "The individual has always been unconscious of himself and has remained so. The mass takes care of this automatically. But when individuals bravely begin their own psychological work, they cease participating in these destructive collective projections." Success pattern. Eleanor Roosevelt. Roosevelt stands as a powerful example of a successfully integrated INFJ empath who channeled her insights into the vast arena of social justice. She possessed an extraordinary ability to read the emotional needs of entire populations and tirelessly worked to create systems that addressed those needs without ever attempting to control individual choices. Jung's analysis showed that Roosevelt's success stemmed from directing her potent empathic abilities toward collective healing, rather than becoming entangled in the often destructive intimacy challenges that frequently derail INTJ and INFJ empaths in personal relationships. Failure pattern. The shadow's grip. Historical manipulation case studies, involving several figures Jung chose not to name publicly, revealed the tragic consequences of unchecked empathic power. These individuals could read others perfectly, but they cruelly used those insights to create dependency, manipulate outcomes, or build cults of personality around themselves. He wrote, "The individual has always been unconscious of himself, and has remained so. But in every culture, throughout time, there have been those rare souls who achieved profound consciousness. These individuals became the wisdom keepers, the quiet rebels who simply could not be controlled by temporal power. This is precisely why authoritarian systems always target the wise ones first. They represent a compelling alternative to external authority, the undeniable possibility of inner authority. And that, truly, is the ultimate threat to any system built on control." The critical difference, Jung's conclusion emphasized, lay in what he called empathic humility. This is the profound recognition that merely seeing others' patterns does not confer superiority, and that everyone's unique journey belongs solely to them. Successful individuals learn to humbly wield their abilities in service of others' authentic development. Those who failed, tragically, used their abilities to serve their own needs, even when they genuinely believed they were helping, trapped in a self-deceptive narrative. Jung recognized that INTJ and INFJ empaths needed fundamentally different relationship strategies than other personality types, given their unparalleled psychological capabilities. These are the guideposts for true connection. Recognition signals for safe connections. Jung identified specific traits that indicated someone could handle a healthy relationship with an INTJ or INFJ empath. These included comfort with deep psychological discussions without becoming defensive, the ability to maintain their own robust emotional boundaries while being understood deeply, and intellectual curiosity about psychological patterns without attempting to use that knowledge manipulatively, and what Jung called shadow comfort, the rare ability to discuss their own darker aspects without shame, projection, or fear. The consciousness matching principle. Jung observed that these empaths critically needed relationships with people at similar, or at least consciously developing, levels of psychological sophistication. He noted that significant consciousness gaps create inherent power imbalances that inevitably corrupt empathic abilities. Truly equal relationships, for these individuals, required what Jung called mutual psychological transparency, where both people could bravely see and be seen clearly without judgment or fear. Safe relationship dynamics. Jung meticulously documented specific relationship patterns that supported healthy INTJ and INFJ empath development. These included intellectual partnerships, where psychological insights were openly shared and discussed; creative collaborations, where empathic insights served artistic or innovative expression; mentorship roles, where their abilities could be used to guide willing participants on their own journeys; and service relationships, where their insights contributed to collective healing rather than personal control. Community-building strategies. Jung strongly recommended that these empaths actively seek out specific communities, other integrated INTJ and INFJ empaths who truly understood their unique experience, people deeply engaged in serious psychological or spiritual development work, creative communities where insight was valued and channeled constructively, and service-oriented groups where empathic abilities could serve collective rather than personal goals. Finally, Jung unveiled that individuation profoundly prepares you for what he called the final individuation, death itself. He wrote, "Shrinking away from death is something unhealthy and abnormal, which robs the second half of life of its purpose. The individuated person is not afraid of death because they have already, in a profound sense, died to their false self. They have experienced what I call ego death, the dissolution of the persona, and the exhilarating discovery of something deeper, more enduring, and eternal. This bestows upon them a quality that is both deeply peaceful and immensely powerful. They are not clinging to life out of fear, so they can live more fully, more vibrantly. They are not avoiding death through denial, so they can embrace each moment more completely, more consciously. So, here is my profound challenge to you. Stop waiting for the world to change, and bravely start changing yourself. Stop looking for external saviors, and courageously become your own hero. Stop seeking validation from others, and begin the sacred process of validating yourself through diligent, loving inner work. Stage 2. The power temptation. As they gradually learn to manage their abilities, these empaths often discover the intoxicating ease with which they can influence others. Jung documented that many become temporarily intoxicated by this newfound power, subtly using insights to get what they want or to feel superior. The crisis point is reached when they confront the uncomfortable truth that they are manipulating, even if their conscious intentions are good. Stage 3. The ethical wrestling. Jung observed this as the most crucial stage, a spiritual battleground where empaths must decisively choose whether to employ their abilities for self-serving purposes or for authentic, selfless service. This stage demands confronting their deepest shadow, painstakingly developing robust ethical frameworks, and learning to act from profound wisdom rather than egoic impulse. Stage 4. Boundary mastery. Successful empaths learn what Jung called conscious permeability, the refined ability to choose when to engage their empathic insights and when to simply be present, allowing life to unfold naturally. They cultivate what Jung termed empathic discipline, using their abilities intentionally and mindfully rather than compulsively reacting to every psychological signal. Stage 5. The authentic integration. Jung's final culminating stage involves a profound reconnection with their own emotional truth, all while maintaining their powerful empathic abilities. They become what Jung called sovereign empaths, individuals who can see clearly, feel deeply, and act wisely without being corrupted by their immense power. Jung noted that fully integrated INTJ and INFJ empaths evolve into extraordinary healers, visionary leaders, and potent creative forces, precisely because they can understand human nature at its deepest, most intricate levels, while simultaneously maintaining unwavering ethical integrity. Throughout this transformative journey, Jung identified specific traps that could derail and even destroy even the most well-intentioned INTJ and INFJ empaths. These are the pitfalls to avoid on the path to sovereignty. The savior complex trap. Using empathic insights to rescue people from their own necessary psychological processes, thereby inadvertently robbing them of crucial growth experiences. Jung warned this creates unhealthy dependency in others and prevents their authentic development, becoming a gilded cage instead of a guiding hand. The intellectual superiority trap. Believing that profound psychological insight inherently equates to superiority over those who lack such insight. Jung noted this dangerous belief inevitably leads to profound emotional isolation and, eventually, ethical corruption, as they distance themselves from the very humanity they aim to understand. The control addiction trap. Becoming addicted to predicting and influencing outcomes, rather than humbly allowing others the dignity of their own unique psychological journeys. Jung observed this insidious trap destroys authentic relationships and corrupts the empath's own internal development, trapping them in a cycle of manipulation. The authenticity loss trap. Becoming so supremely skilled at reading and responding to others that they tragically lose touch with their own authentic emotions and fundamental needs. Jung called this empathic dissociation, and noted it inevitably leads to a profound, hollow emptiness within the empath themselves. Jung's recommended maintenance practices for these integrated empaths included regular periods of solitude for authentic self-connection engaging in creative expression that bypassed purely analytical thinking, fostering deep relationships with other integrated empaths who truly understood their unique path, and committing to service work that channeled their abilities toward collective rather than personal benefit. Jung's final insight about INTJ and INFJ empaths was perhaps his most profound and hopeful. He believed they represented not just a personality type, but an evolutionary development in human consciousness, absolutely necessary for our species' psychological advancement. Jung wrote, "These individuals possess the psychological tools necessary to understand and heal the deep collective wounds that plague humanity. They can see the patterns that create suffering and, when properly integrated, can guide others toward psychological freedom." Jung envisioned that as humanity grapples with increasing psychological complexity, these empaths would serve as crucial consciousness bridges, individuals capable of translating between different levels of psychological development and helping others navigate their own empathic awakenings. He saw them as essential for what he called collective individuation, the grand, ongoing process by which entire cultures and societies move toward greater psychological maturity. Their inherent ability to see and influence psychological patterns made them natural, indispensable guides for this evolutionary process. Jung concluded they are not mere accidents of nature, but evolutionary necessities. Their inherent danger lies not in their profound abilities, but in their potential for corruption. When integrated, they become the very healers, the architects of consciousness our world so desperately needs. The INTJ and INFJ empath represents Jung's most complex and awe-inspiring discovery about human psychological potential. You, if you resonate with this description, possess the unparalleled ability to peer into the very architecture of human consciousness, a power that can either corrupt absolutely or transform completely. Jung's meticulous research revealed that your unique combination of empathic sensitivity with strategic, visionary thinking makes you psychologically formidable, not because you are inherently destructive, but because you hold the power to subtly reshape the very reality of others. The thin, shimmering line between profound healing and insidious manipulation runs through every interaction you have, every insight you gain. But Jung also discovered that when properly integrated, you become what he called the sovereign empath, a being who can see clearly, feel deeply, and act wisely without being corrupted by your immense power. You transform into a guardian of others' psychological development rather than a controller of it. Your personal journey isn't just about individual growth, it is, in a profound sense, evolutionary. Jung believed that humanity's psychological advancement depends critically on individuals like you learning to wield empathic insight with profound wisdom, rather than falling prey to egoic impulses. The choice, always, is yours. Will you be an architect of healing, building bridges to understanding, or a constructor of psychological prisons, however benevolent their facade? Jung's research shows that this monumental choice shapes not just your individual destiny, but potentially the very consciousness evolution of our entire species. If you recognize yourself in Jung's profound description of the INTJ and INFJ empath, let your presence be known. Comment below with, "I see the architecture." Your courageous development of empathic sovereignty isn't merely personal growth, it is a vital, transformative service to human consciousness itself. Thank you for embarking on this profound exploration. We will see you, perhaps, in the next dimension of understanding.